Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott. It is our monthly Ask the AD segment with Jason Donnelly, and never one to shy away from doing what he can for a ratings grab. He has brought along Bob Richey as this month's guest. Jason, and, Coach, how you doing?
And I'm going to get started with a couple things first when we get to Coach Richey, who's here. We're grateful. We're in the middle of a very busy October. A lot going on. We just had our head coaches meeting, and we're going over all the different events. But I do want to bring to your attention a couple of things before we get with Bob, just so you know what's coming up with Furman basketball. This Thursday, October 12th, purple and white scrimmage in Timmons Arena. Come out 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. There's going to be autograph signings and inflatables and food. We hope that you're going to be able to join us. I got to talk to Bob about some remarks we're going to make before the scrimmage at 7 p.m., but you're going to have a great chance to see the team live. I had a chance to see them this past weekend in a intra-squad scrimmage, and you don't want to miss this. There's a lot to see. We also want to share with you that Tuesday, October 24th, we're going to have Hoops Night, which we did last year, which was just for the students last year, but it's grown, and all fans are invited to attend. It's a great chance to see the team. A lot of special things taking place that night. That'll be Tuesday, October 24th. And I can't believe it, Bob, but we're coming up on Monday, November 6th, which is, as you said earlier, 4 weeks away from today, the home opener. But, Dan, a couple more things that we wanted to share with the fans about ticketing, different things that are taking place. We just want you to know that season tickets are available, game tickets are available, family packs are available before we get to Bob. But we're ready to get to that part. But, Bob, tell us how you're doing, because we got a lot of questions from the fans we want to ask you about how you were doing.
Well, we're 2 weeks in, so we're pretty wide open right now, and had a walk through this morning, and then we'll get back to the practice court this afternoon. And the guys are just working really hard. I mean, I'm really pleased with our effort. There's a lot of things that we have to clean up, but just typically what you'll hear from most coaches this year, where most of us are happy with our depth right now, 2 weeks in. I think as we have to continue to solidify roles, that's going to be a huge key for this team. And, what could be a really good strength, in my opinion, for us to lose Mike and Slaw, I still think we have a chance to be deeper, because we returned 7 players that they're all a year older. Mm-hmm. And then we took, a 2-year transfer. And so then also you have a couple of our freshmen that have really come along quicker than we thought. So, I think a lot of guys are getting better. Unfortunately, the league's not going to let us start 6. So we're going to have to figure out, hey, these are the 5. And then I think, you look across the country. You look at San Diego State, who we all got a pretty good close-up view last year, how they played their depth. You look at what Charleston did, how they played their depth. Last year we played 4 guys 30-plus minutes. I think we're still going to play 9, potentially 10 some nights with foul trouble. I think you're going to see the minute distribution be a little bit more concentrated to the middle. And we've studied some teams that have done that well. You look at San Diego State, one of their guys off the bench actually signed to E10 with the Warriors. And, the power of winning, right? And people understanding that if the team wins and we're a part of that I think that is going to be the critical component of this team. But right now our effort's been great, and guys are working hard, and we're getting better.
Okay. Well, the team winning has all sorts of benefits, and one of them, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in a minute, is more people want to come and see you play. And we were just told before we started this that the season tickets for basketball are running significantly ahead of where they were a year ago, and we know what a great home court advantage Timmons has become, so it's got to thrill you to find out there are going to be even more people there.
Well, it always does. I mean, I think that for us, we've been pretty direct in our mission of growth here, that we want to continue to build the brand. And, as the program builds, you want the brand to build, and the visibility, and being in this great city and obviously on a beautiful campus. I think we had a couple sellouts last year, but really, as a fan base that we embrace, like, this is what we expect that. Like, hey, let's go fill this. Let's go fill Timmons up. Let's take this as a not who's playing or, hey, it's the big game, but, hey, Furman's playing tonight, and we're going to be there. And I think that, to build this into something, especially as we get into a new arena and, all of a sudden we've got a state-of-the-art facility, that this is an expected full house every night, and that this is a city event. And I think, we've got to continue to move towards that, and it really not shy away from that expectation, but really try to exceed that as a fan base, and, make it a little bit more of, as this thing grows, that, hey, regardless who we're playing, the fact that we're playing, we're there. And I think that's what really can continue to get this to the next level.
And there have been a handful of places over the last 2 or 3 years. I know you and I have talked at different places on the road where you've seen that with established mid-major programs who have that kind of fan interaction, fans showing up game in and game out, and there's no reason why it can't be done here.
No, and I think you've seen the progression into that. You know, I think especially what our fans should be really, really excited about, and I know for us, I mean, I think we have 6 home Saturday conference games this year, which is just fantastic. And we've been awesome on Saturdays. I think where we can continue to fill in gaps is weekdays, and again, going to the idea that, hey, and we've seen that growth the last couple of years. I mean, I remember walking out last year and seeing some really good crowds.
I'm laughing because you know, when Bob and I go through the schedule, you know, he goes through different things, and then the conference schedule. And, you know, we talk about Saturdays a lot, and then the conference schedule came out this year. I said, "What'd you think?" He goes, "They gave us 6 on Saturday." I said, "Yeah, don't say anything, because it may be an error on their part that they missed. The other side of it may be them making up for things in the past that they may have gotten wrong. But to have 6 on a Saturday is such a great opportunity for us." One of the questions going to come up later, we can bring it up now, is just a little bit about the well. So we have done a great job in recent years of building our brand for Greenville in terms of playing downtown and that being a priority. Certainly was something that we went into this year as a priority in terms of trying to find the right dates. We've got a great partnership with the Well. So as we go through this process, from my perspective, we're building to this be the last year in Timmins and to renovate the next year, and then we're going to play a season at the Well. But in this particular year, we don't have a game at the Well. So we went through the process. The dates, we're working through it with both the Well and the SoCon. They didn't line up exactly how we wanted them, but interesting process with you and the team. I wanted you to be able to share with everyone just in terms of where the team was, what their thoughts were for the year ahead.
Yeah, it was interesting, you know, just talking through it, and really once we saw the league and the availability of dates, I love the Well, you know, and I want to make sure everybody understands that. You know, we live a mile from the Well, and Friday night we got done with practice just in time, and I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and so she wanted to go to the Old Dominion concert, and so we went there as a family the other night, and I'm sitting in there thinking, man, you know what, like, this is just a great venue, and you know, thinking of some great moments we've had in there, you know, just sitting in there watching the show. I'm thinking about season, of course, but my daughter and my wife is having a good time. So Mac and I were just eating popcorn and just kind of hanging out.
Thinking about basketball
And thinking about Mike Bothwell's shot to beat Stephen F. Austin in there, and thinking about Mike's pivot to beat Wofford in there, and, you know, even an exciting game in there. I mean, 6,000 people. I mean, like, there's nothing that we're shying away from in that. I think it's, you know, when I talked to Leadership Council this year, you know, we were talking about playing Wofford to get in there. The date didn't quite align. And we're talking about it, and they made an interesting point. They said, you know, because of COVID, you know, a couple guys, they'd never played Wofford in Timmins. And for it to be the last year in this fashion of Timmins Arena, they said, Coach, you know, we think it'd be pretty neat just to play it on campus. And, you know, it's going to be packed. I mean, like, it's obviously we're not going to be able to fit 6,000 in there. And so you're giving up some of that to be able to do this, but it's more so the last year of it in Timmins Arena, we wanted to maximize that as kind of a last run, and what we're calling the stage version of Timmins Arena. We're gonna make it an arena version here soon, but then we're going to play a lot of games there.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, did you let the cat out of the bag just now, and we're going to play a full season?
Well, that's been part of the
at the Well.
Well, that's been part of the communication that we want to share.
My reporter instincts are coming out. I heard you say that.
So this is a deeper dive into where we are in our process. Is that we and the university have been committed to it. Bob's been committed to it. Fundraising donors are committed to this, and then where we are in our process is, we've been doing all the work with the arena, you know, the arena designs, the arena fundraising, the arena approval process. All of that's taking place now, meaning that all the work's been done. Now we got to get things approved. We got to get everything done. So there's a degree of control that's past us that gets passed on to the trustees, but we fully expect to get to the point where this arena is getting approved, the construction is going to take place. So we have one season left to enjoy Timmins, and then the following year, yes, that's our plan, is that we do plan to play the majority of our games downtown, if not all of them in terms of home games. We've got other options to consider. But I think that plays into this a little bit, and that's where when Bob and I are going over this, we're talking about what are our options for this year. We really do value the impact from the student athletes in terms of, hey, we want to play that Wofford game here on the season. The other thing I'll say also is interesting, this is part of why you got to get your tickets now, is that we want sold-out, packed environment. We want competitive. We still want Greenville, but we have an opportunity here in the next season to really make the most of Timmins. And the reality is that you're going to have to jump on board now, because you might not be able to get in later. So if you take a game that in the past was getting 6,000 people, this arena is going to hold 2,500. We'll flex it to be as big as we can on game day, but we want this to be loud. We want it to be rowdy. We want to support this team. We're building. We're going somewhere special. And watching the team on Saturday, I was excited as well. I mean, one of the things I'm most impressed with that you talk about the most is player development, just what you've seen growth, because you've had some guys really take some major steps forward, but what have you seen on the player development side?
Well, you're always nervous when you get asked that with so much growth that you'll forget somebody, in terms of, I feel confident saying that from June to now, everybody on our roster has improved in some form or fashion. And obviously growth happens in different phases, and there will be some more growth as we continue to go forward. I think a couple guys, just to point out a few things, more so talking about returners. We've had 2 inter-squad scrimmages so far. Then we've had 8 regular practices, so we're 10 in. And Marcus Foster's had an unbelievable offseason.
Yes.
I mean, it's just been really, really encouraging to see him take another step towards playing aggressive and being a playmaker, and not just a scorer. But last night in practice, he had a 19% assist rate, which is really high for somebody like that is of his playmaking ability and the way he shoots it. He's shooting the cover off the ball right now. He's playing with a ton of confidence. He and JP, I mean, JP's made some. He obviously dealt with his foot injury through a lot of the offseason, but he's coming back into form, and those two are really starting to play off one another well. Tyrese Huey had hip surgery again to fix. You remember he sat out a few games towards the end of the year there. And the good news, though, even though we had to go fix his other hip, we got him back sooner than last year. Last year he just got back about right now, a little bit before right now. Mm-hmm. He never really got into shape. And then as soon as he kind of started getting into shape, he started having issues with his other hip. So we got him back in August. He looks like a different person right now. And he had 19 rebounds in a 32-minute scrimmage on Saturday. And just his physicality.
He looks bigger.
He's bigger.
He's stronger for sure. They all look stronger, but he looks bigger.
He looks bigger. He's more confident. And I think he's one of those guys that just day by day is going to continue to improve. Alex Williams, his body is better than it's ever been since he's been here. He's somebody that's going to make a big jump. Ben Vanderwall had a great summer. We tweaked his shot a little bit. Carter Witt, he's shown a lot of progress. Mm-hmm. And, made a couple plays in practice last night that was just like, wow, just he's starting to kind of come into his own. And
you haven't even talked about the freshmen.
I haven't talked about the freshmen. I haven't talked about Garrett. Garrett made, Garrett made a really, really good jump. He put on the 10 pounds that we needed. Mm-hmm. So he's at 220. Also, right now, the good thing about Garrett, in practice, when he shoots a 3 right now, everybody thinks it's going in. He's shooting close to 40% so far in camp, which if he can keep doing that, that's going to make us really hard to guard. And then the freshman class, the neat thing about the freshman class and the newcomers, there's a saying in recruiting, you don't know till you marry them. We had a good feeling about the mentality of this group. And so far from a summer and a preseason, we really hit from a mental side and just competitive and tough and, guys that play the game the way we value the game to be played. We really, Edrin from Florida, somebody that's, he's been coming a long way, at 19 in the scrimmage Saturday. Cooper Bowser, it's going to be fun as people see him. The big guy for us that can run and that can move and that can get up and down the court. He's played really, really well. He's going to play for sure this year. Tommy Humphreys is somebody that just continues to get better. And then PJ is a transfer we took from Lee that came from a very similar system. And he's just one of those guys, personality-wise for me, serious, tough-minded guy that can really, really shoot the ball and plays incredibly hard. So really happy with a lot of their growth.
Dan, I'm going to grab a fan question just because we're on that topic. But this is from a fan. It's asking, are you going to be able to limit the rotation to 9, or could it stretch to 10? We look deep. But just as you're thinking about early thoughts on rotation, you think about all these different players. It's obviously almost too early to say that, but some of your thoughts on rotation.
Yeah, I think we have some real depth, and I think it's going to be the strength of our team. I think we're going to have a lot of guys that can start. I really feel like that right now, and a lot of coaches say that right now. Everything's great until you finally get beat, and then all of a sudden you start to shrink down. The last 2 years we've played 9, and I think that's kind of the magic number for the tempo that we play at. We had the one game last year, my mistake. We choked it down to 8 and we lost, and we were up 13 and we lose a lead, lose the game in overtime. And so as fast as we want to play, we got to play at least 9. Mm-hmm. The good thing about it is, and I told the team this morning, there's nobody out there that could not play in a game. And so really what it comes down to is you still want the more you play, then the less you're going to play the top of the roster as well, right? And so there's still going to be some guys that, we're going to want them out on the court rather than over there on the bench. We're going to want to get them their rest and then get them back out. But we have the capability to play 10, 11 if we needed to. I don't like doing that. It's harder to manage in games. But if foul trouble presents itself to play a fourth big, then we have that guy. Davis Molnar's made a huge jump.
Yes.
He's somebody.
Looks great.
And he's somebody that, it's similar. I was telling the staff the other day, we ran it. I'm not saying it's the same thing. We ran into this problem my second year. We thought Clay was a 4, and we had Noah that was redshirt freshman, just kind of came out of nowhere. And then we had Matt Rafferty, and we're like, hey, all three. Well, hey, we're going to have to kind of reposition a guy. And that's when we moved Clay to the 3. And Clay's still playing professionally overseas as a 3. And so you got to get your best guys on the court. And so there's some creative things that we're going to be able to do that, I can't sit here and tell you I have all the answers to it right now. We're still letting these guys compete through fall camp and really making this thing open. But we don't have any, every single year I feel like our depth has gotten a little bit better. And even though we lose 2 really good players, the recruiting that our staff's done and the development work, we're in a pretty good position personnel-wise.
Well, and I would say roster flexibility, because while you may have 1 or 2 or 3 guys who are specifically this or this, you've got a number of guys who, if you need to move a guy from the 3 to the 4 or from the 4 to the 3 or even down to the 2, like sometimes you did with Slaw last year, for instance, bringing the ball up the floor to help in that situation. You've got that kind of flexibility with your roster.
And we look for that in recruiting. That's a big preferential thing for me. I love versatility. And as an assistant, when I was recruiting coordinator, I never liked to recruit one-positional players. And, now we have a lot of multi-positional players. And we have a couple guys that can go to 3 positions, which that's when it gets really interesting and unique. And, Marcus Foster, you think about it, 2 years ago, he's playing 4 for us. We played small ball. He's playing a stretch 4 for us. Last year, he played full-time 3 for us. He's worked on his handle enough. This year, he's going to be able to play some 2. And, that allows us to get really big. And, you look back on some of the Warriors teams a while back, and I'm not saying that we're the Warriors by any stretch, but, you look at some of what they did defensively. The Warriors always get all this credit for what they do offensively. But they would hit you with 6'5", 6'6", 6'5", and that 2, 3, 4, and they're just switching everything. I think we're going to have some lineups where you could see 2 through 4 being Marcus Foster, Alex Williams, Ben Vanderwall, or whoever, and now you just got 3 6'5", 6'6" guys out there, 2, 3, and 4. In Far League, that's exceptional length. But then we might hit the sub, and you see PJ and Carter both subbing in, and we have 3 point guards out there, and now we're flying this thing up and down the court. And it's just there's a lot of flexibility that I think. One thing we talked about last year before we won it was we felt like in this league with so many different systems that you see, you've got to be able to play big and small, and then you've got to be able to fit the middle. And like you think to the conference championship, we brought G to the bench, and he was willing to do it. He played 15 minutes in the conference championship because we wanted to go smaller, and we won the championship. And Garrett was celebrating just like everybody else, right? But then there would be games where we'd want to go really, really big. And I think the versatility to be able to do that makes you really, really hard to compete against.
So one question here is looking down the road, and I think it's a valid question. I mean, and it's a good thing because it means you're around for it. But the philosophy in the 2025 recruiting class with so many scholarships potentially available, we look to strike a balance or aim for all freshmen. What is your thinking about the evolution of a program? Obviously, we coach this season, we play for this season, but just thoughts as you look ahead, and it's obviously a year will also be open in an arena. But what are you looking at?
Well, I'll tell you this. We're thinking about it every single day. I mean, with a class that critical, we have 1 open scholarship in 2024, and we're taking our time with that. I loved, it's a little bit Warren Buffett, when fearful be greedy, when greedy be fearful. The way this portal is navigating right now in the spring, everybody goes to the portal. Like, our whole business is in the high school world right now, and then all of a sudden, once we get to the spring, everybody deletes high school and they go all portal. Well, that's how we got Cooper Bowser, because we waited. We had a former ACC coach in practice last week, and he said, man, 5 years ago, he's at a high major, but everybody was watching this portal. And so I'm actually looking forward to doing that again with our 24 open spot, to just wait and be patient. 25, our staff's done an incredible job. This is the best we've ever recruited. And a couple things play into that. I mean, it's what we're coming off of in terms of the production, but also what we have set up in place here institutionally and the growth that's tangible with the facilities and all that. So it's all kind of fitting and hitting at the same time, which is funny when you study programs. That's usually how it works, right? It's not chicken or the egg. It's chicken and the egg. It's all simultaneous. And so we marked off 3 huge recruiting days this fall. We've had 2 of those. We just had one for family weekend. We had 7 high-level players in here. I mean, guys, and we got to land them, but like really, really good. And then about 3 weekends ago, that September 23rd weekend, we had a huge group here. We'll do the same thing homecoming date. In terms of what we'll sign, high school or portal or all that, like we have to see what transpires over the next couple of years. I think as long as we can keep retaining at the top, there's no reason that we can't keep filling from the bottom.
Yep.
And, I think that's where we're focused on making sure we have a system in place that we can retain our student athletes. I know it's easy to say, hey, we're losing a lot. We have some young players that are going to be really, really good.
Yep.
And so we'll balance that to make sure that we're old enough, and we'll have a picture of that. But our staff, we've made Tim Johnson recruiting coordinator. We did that this offseason, and he's really been coordinating a lot of that, and he's been all over the place. But Chad and then also Jeremy, they've been all over the place with it and really did a great job this fall. And then now, you have Jake Delaney, who was an assistant at Gardner-Webb. So even though he's, off the road per se here, they can still be involved in recruiting. And same thing with Damon coming from Baylor. So I'll tell you this, we are foot to gas in 25 recruiting, have more offers out than we ever have.
I think our fans would love this too. We're at the South Carolina game, and football's playing there, and Bob's down on the field, and we're talking, and he's laughing. He goes, I think we're recruiting well because all of our recruits are standing right over there on the sideline. So, if you're going head-to-head with an SEC program and all the guys you're recruiting, and you're recruiting the right people, in terms of where you want to be.
We had multiple kids on campus this week with Power 5 offers and also A-10 offers. And so, the trick is you got to land them. And for us, we have time to be able to take some calculated gambles at this stage and really see where we can get in some of these situations. They still have to check all of our boxes. And I think when you study sustainability and program, you study Bob McKillop and Rick Bird and some of these people that just sustain winning for so long. They never, Jay Wright, they never got outside of who they were. John Beeline, hey, there's still going to be a certain type of person that we have to check those values, and you don't want to just serve talent. You want to make sure you're getting the right people in place. But, man, been really, really pleased with what we've been able to get on campus so far this fall.
Well,
let me say one more thing to that. And it's also why it's important how all this works together, because when we have 12,000 at a football game Saturday, and we have 6-7 big-time recruits here, and we have other teams out, and the lots are out here, and we got this big tailgate, those are the moments where you can feel the collective energy that we've got to continue to bring. And I think that's why when you're talking about brand building and program building, it all fits and it all matters. And that was pretty neat for us to be able to see that Saturday.
First 12,000 plus crowd since my first year in 2011. Yeah. You can believe that. That's another story for another time. But the recruiting piece and building your roster is a fascinating thing to watch, because we think of all of the shuffling and the transfers and everything at the Power 5 level, but back at our athletic department picnic, which ended up being indoors because of weather at the end of the spring, I was talking, it was either to Chad or Darren, and just talking about the landscape. And at that juncture, 35% of Southern Conference basketball players were in the transfer portal. In this conference, 35%. And yet here we are, and you're continuing to run this as a developmental program and getting the right pieces perhaps out of the portal. But I just thought, well, there's a snapshot of the difference in building a team and building a program. If 35% of the SoCon is in the transfer portal and we're doing what we're doing here, I think this is a model that other people need to be looking at.
Well, I mean, it was 53 players out of 10 teams, so 5.3, per team, which is just incredible. And, out of the 9 that played in that, Virginia game and that San Diego State game in the conference championship, we lost 2 really good ones, but all 7 came back, that we didn't lose. And so that's been huge for us. And, a lot of speculation out there. What's the portal mean, and what's coach's philosophy on it? Look, I don't think the portal's a bad thing. I don't like all the freelance moving. I think in terms of that scares me in terms of what we're teaching these student athletes. But there are some reasons, and there are some justifiable reasons. And for us, it's just making sure that we vet still what we're looking for. We know exactly what we're getting. If we lose one that's older in the spring, then we're going to take somebody out of the portal, and we've shown that. We've taken 3 portal guys in the last 3 years, and it's been because we had a player that probably wanted to play a little bit more, that was older, that transferred out. So to stay old, we will use the portal for that. It's more of like, hey, let's keep this same age. But in terms of our fall philosophy, how many scholarships do we have? Like, we have one right now. Like, I'm going to use that for a high school player, right? That's not like there's no, hey, are we going high school? Are we going portal with this spot? This is going to be a high school player. But if something happens in the spring, we lose a player, then we'll utilize the portal to stay old.
And then I also want to give credit where credit's due, because you're being humble about it as well, is that there's a defined commitment retention strategy that starts with you. And the part about this is that student athletes are here because they want to play for you. They want to go to Furman. You did a great job of articulating, Jalen and Mike coming back and what that meant. I mean, that's the story of last season. As they came back, they wanted to go through that process. But the next story, the next chapter is how many people want to stay and play for you. And that's not just speaking for the fans. That's also the staff. I mean, there's a commitment on the part of the staff. There's a commitment on the part of the donors. There's a commitment on the part of the players that this is something that's really special in terms of what is invested. It's really special what you're building. And when you're talking about these contemporaries that you're studying, it's that they want to be a part of this. They know they're a part of something special. And you've done a great job of showing the student athletes, the recruits, the parents, a path to growth. They're being patient. They're going through a process saying, I know what I can get when I build through this. And we were joking around, just even talking about Jalen. Like, look at where Jalen is, how well he's doing, how connected he's staying to the program. But this dude's going to be on an NBA roster playing a significant role just by being Jalen. He just keeps doing what he does, keeps getting better. But you deserve the credit for what you're building as a really special program, and we're so grateful that you are here at Furman and you see that path to what you want it to be.
Well, I think right now, it's funny. We've always said that we want to be an inside-out program, in terms of how we play, in terms of where our focus is, and like that's we've now added a layer to that. Like, when you hear college athletics and basketball right now, all you hear about is external. And when you hear about recruiting, it's like, hey, external. Like, what are we doing here? How are we getting this guy? What's going on? Now, all of a sudden, for us, it's become really inside out. Like, I tell our staff all the time, the most important recruits for next year are current locker room.
Correct.
We want to be inside out, right? Like, we don't want to be outside in, to where now all of a sudden in April, we're scrambling around trying to get to know these guys and begging them to stay. Like, hey, it's October. Like, we've got staff getting coffee with a player. We got staff going to lunch with a guy. We got guys, all kind of guys in the office and hanging out, like parents weekend. We had all kind of parents here. Like, to create a true family atmosphere and a culture where we're going to build from the inside. I think it's going to continue to be a competitive advantage for us. And we've talked about this for years, right? I mean, we've been on here talking about this for 3 or 4 or 5 years. It feels like now, like all the transitions and all this stuff. Well, we're valuing, it's you say this in coaching sometimes, you get what you emphasize, right? Like, you're not going to get everything in coaching. Like, we have an inter-squad Saturday, staff emails me. I mean, we'd have to practice for 6 hours for me to go through everything that they email me about. Okay, so we're going to get what we emphasize, and it's the same thing when you're building culture. Like, what do you want to emphasize? And for us, it's that family environment. It's that work it while you wait, be developed, get the holistic approach to this. And yeah, going back to Jalen, I mean, I told the team this, and my wife had gone to bed. Mac wanted to stay up and watch him. He had his first preseason game. And for the fans that don't know this, like, he's going to play a little bit in these preseason games. It's going to go down more than likely as we get closer to season. But like, this is pretty neat. I mean, I was talking to him last night. I mean, he's getting on a plane today to go to L.A. And he's playing the Lakers, and he's going to be out there, and he's going to see LeBron out there, and he's going to see Anthony Davis out there, and like, and so I turned the game on. It started at 8:00, and actually it was Sunday. The Garys were actually over for dinner, and my alarm went off, and they were like, "Why is your alarm going off?" And I was, "Does that mean we have to go now?" And I was like, "No, Jalen's about to tip, and like I got to make sure I see it." And so he got in the fourth quarter, and he played about 8 minutes, and everybody was asleep, and I couldn't have been more proud of him. And, it was almost to a point like I had water in my eyes just watching how hard he was playing, how hard he was competing, his responses to things. I was kidding with him yesterday. He actually got dunked on a really good play, and his response was incredible. I mean, just went down there, made a big-time play on offense, came back down the floor, and there was a loose ball, and he was probably third closest to the ball, and he just went head first, and he dove on the ball, forced a jump ball. NBA, you actually got to go tip, goes to the circle, and wins the jump ball. And he had 2 rebounds, he had 2 assists, he had a big-time block. So I made Matt go to bed, and it's about 6:10 the next morning, and I hear somebody yelling in the living room. And it's Matt watching the game. And I walked out, and he's like, Dad, he's playing so well. But, it's neat to see that, as we're telling recruits right now, all these guys want to play in the tournament, they want to go to the NBA. And we've been able to prove that you can do that here. And I think there's more chapters to the story.
So, Dan, one of my responsibilities is to manage time with our coaches. Bob's got a lot of stuff he's got to do. So I'm going to give Dan, you got the last question. Choose anything that you want or whatever is on your mind. But last question for Bob.
Two-parter. How has the NCAA tournament run impacted recruiting? That was one of the questions there. And then another question, if you can't answer this, that's fine. But I've gotten multiple inquiries about the documentary and wanting to know if there's an update as to when that's going to come out. So those are the two other things from the fans.
Yeah, look, the NCAA tournament, okay, like visibility, right? That's how it's affected recruiting. People know us. They know our school colors. They know our mascot. They know where we're at. They know who Furman is. And that's the value you get out of that you can't put a price on. And, when you get in that on that stage and then all of a sudden you're on all those brackets and then all of a sudden you win a game like that, there's no secrets to who you are. And then you get more people trying to look under the hood and figure out, hey, what's going on. But, there's just a level of an excitement. And, I thought from that tournament point, something that, Tony Bennett actually is the one I heard say this, but we've used this a lot in recruiting, that great basketball knows no level, no limit. And we've really tried to paint this picture that, hey, we don't want to associate with a mid-major. We want to compete against the best, and we want to go out there and just be the best we can be, whatever major that is, okay? When we walk on that court, we want to continue to build something that, it's majorless. This is just who Furman is. And I think that's been the neat part of it. I think as a fan base, what we got to continue to realize is we can keep building that visibility. You know what I mean? This doesn't have to be a one-hit wonder type scenario. We can keep building that image and that brand. And some of that's going to be, what we're doing facility-wise, what we're doing in terms of, you look right now, right? I mean, going back to the South Carolina Furman football game, I mean, everybody was talking about it afterwards, the lights, and the energy and the event, right? And can you be known for that, right? What type of production you're putting on, and all those things that I think that we want to continue to show. But to answer your question in one word, visibility. And I don't think that's limited to basketball. I think I would imagine almost all programs are benefiting from that. I would think institutionally we're benefiting from that. And I think the visibility of what we're all doing, I think it's brought a lot more eyes on it. In terms of the documentary, I'm not the producer, and it's not something that we're producing in-house. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of tangible, hey, this is the timeline. I like control, but I have zero control over this. I can say this. The aim of what I've heard is that they would love to try to make it a stocking stuffer, Christmas time type situation. So I think they're shooting for that early December. I don't quote me on that, but I know this. I've done all my interviews, and it was a lot. And so I'm done with my piece of it.
Yeah.
But they're working through that now, and I think it's going to be a pretty neat moment when they get it out.
A lot of that work was put in, and a lot of the work behind the scenes was done. But that's not something that Furman was controlling. This was an opportunity for a company to be a part of it, and for them, they want to also maximize the opportunity to share this. So, God willing, it all comes together. But I also look at that. The content of if you look back on things, if you're watching any documentary, it's going to come to life and it's going to be helpful at some point down the road, wherever that is. So it'll be interesting to see how it all comes out. But there is some great content and there's some great look back there that sometimes takes some time to get that out there.
Well, and I don't think they would mind me saying this. I mean, they feel really positive about it getting on Amazon Prime, and they're working even to try to potentially get it on Netflix. So they're taking this thing really serious. They're putting a lot of work into it. They had to line up a bunch of interviews. They had to get obviously Jalen back on his schedule, and they had to figure out Mike, and then going through all that. But I think right now they're in the production phase.
Maybe it's worth me getting Richmond Weaver on one of these
I'll tell you,
broadcasts.
he can answer a lot of the questions that the fans have. Yeah, that'd be good.
So there you go.
All right. Well, let's let Bob go back to work, and we'll get back at the second half of the show. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all.
Just a reminder while we're transitioning that the football team is on the road at Samford for a big road game, first of back-to-back huge road games. 1 o'clock kick Furman time in Birmingham, and we will be on the air on the Ingles Furman Radio Network, beginning with the pregame, the Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff at 11:30. So we hope you'll tune in for that, and then, of course, it is at Western Carolina the following week, and then returning back here in 3 weeks for ETSU and homecoming. So that is a bit of a snapshot of what's coming up from a broadcast standpoint this week.
Dan,
so much to cover.
Yeah, so much to cover, and we want to make today about the questions because there's a lot of them, and Dan's got free reign, and everyone knows that we do the Ask the AD session really to try to answer questions that are out there in terms of things that are going on. I just want to share, every time I'm with Bob, just energized by the conversation and everything that he is doing, and it's just so much fun. But I will also tell you that Bob is a great example of the quality of the coaches that we have across the board. We couldn't be happier with the success that we had in the month of September. If you look at where football is, and you look at all the fall sports and everything that's going on around campus has been awesome. The energy from the students, the faculty, the staff, the fans has been great. This past weekend with football, we can talk more about football as well, but it's been awesome. I do want to share some things that are coming up in the weeks ahead because literally every day in October there's stuff going on. But for those of you that are looking for some broad-based opportunity to support Furman Athletics, I would encourage you to come out. Men's and women's soccer are getting into the back end of their schedule. We've got women's soccer senior day coming up on Sunday. Just had a great game, cancer awareness game for them with CISA Soccer. Just 1,000 people here, great energy. But supporting men's soccer, volleyball's got a huge match on Friday. For those of you that support volleyball, they take on undefeated Citadel right here in Alley Gym. It was one of those times I wish that football wasn't on the road because I'd love to pack that gym with 130 football players. But if you can come out for that, that'll be a big one. Men's golf has their only home event this upcoming Sunday and Monday. So if you're interested in coming out to support our men's golf program, they're on the road now, but they're going to host their tournament on Sunday and on Monday. And then obviously 2 weekends from now, or 3 weekends from now, I should say, we're going to host our homecoming football game, which we're really excited about, and hopefully pack another great crowd like we had this past Sunday. But things are really, really good. Also, just tune into the things that we shared at the beginning of the program about basketball as early as this Thursday for the purple and white scrimmage. But a lot of fun stuff going on campus. But, Dan, we want to be responsive to the fan questions and go through things that maybe you're wondering about, but we're going to use the rest of the segment just to do some fan stuff. And I don't know what's on the docket, but we'll go through them.
Well, there's several questions that were submitted, or some of them were in comment form that we're going to ask you to respond to. But one of them that we did something as far as what we do on our social media and through releases here, but there was the honoring of the designer of the Diamond F logo. It's 50th year of the Diamond F logo, and one of the questions was, can we honor the person who did that, who came up with that, either on field at a football game or at an upcoming basketball game? Can we actually get the person in front of the fans so they can show their appreciation, because that has become an iconic logo. And as David Cobb pointed out during the football broadcast, and anytime he can say something about the Citadel, he will. But they've gone through how many different logo changes in that 50 years, and the Diamond F has been consistent.
So the answer is yes. We would love to do that. I appreciate the suggestion. Whoever shared it, we will get on that right away. I thought that was a great article done by our University Communications and to share that. And I know the history and the tradition and Coach Sheridan's part in promoting that and how far the brand has gone. We love our iconic brand, the Diamond F. And I think the more often that it's out there, the more often that people see it, it's recognizable, it's strong, it's visible. It's something that we definitely use as our primary mark. I'm looking at it on the football stadium now, and it looks great out there. So the answer is yes. We've been proud to honor Coach Sheridan at the opening game and to recognize him and his family. We've been honored to recognize Martha Johns and Dr. Johns. We've started the FU chant between the third and fourth quarter, and it's something we want to keep as a historical tradition of doing that with them. But the answer is yes. Yeah, we'd love to honor the Diamond F. I got it on the top of my list of things to do, and we will figure out a way to do that. So please answer yes on that one. Easy one.
Now, some of these, of course, I send to you in advance if it's something that I feel like you need to investigate a little bit. So I'm going to ask this one blind, and you can tell me if you had a chance to investigate it or not. But there was a question about making the process of getting into Paladin Stadium a little easier with the metal detectors and the ticket scanners and those things. First of all, it's a great problem to have because our crowds are much bigger than they have been in recent years. You look at the last 2 seasons plus what we've done so far this year, the crowds are exponentially higher, which is going to present a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, anytime you have big crowds, it's a great problem to have. And the simplest answer to that is that we meet every week about what is going on with our games and what's going on with our venue. And some of the things, there was another question about a microphone issue that we had in Game 1, which has been fixed and has been adjusted. So we haven't had an issue since then. But no, the commitment to the fan experience is a top priority for us. The things that we do around it, including the safety of our fans, which is why we have metal detectors as a part of that. But the process, I know that the ticketing has been new in terms of scanners. I asked the question to the staff. One of the things they've been doing is getting tents over the scanners, so you don't have the visibility with the sun that it can impact the ability for people to come through. But we do question studies. We back things up. We had someone in the line the other day that walked from the back of the line to the front of the line, said, how long did it take you at a max capacity? And it took them 6.5 minutes. So, I mean, it's one of those things where there's people going through. We're going to continue to look at ways that we can help fans getting in and out of the stadium. But for the most part, even on our highest volume times, we have not had issues, and we're not hearing any negatives that are coming back in terms of feedback. It's always something that's welcome to go back to the ticket office to do. We will continue to look at ways to get fans in and out of the stadium at a quicker route. There's some things that I suggested today with our staff that I think we can do even better. And we'll continue to look at parking. We'll continue to look at ticketing. We'll take a look at concessions, all different aspects of in-game experience, use of video boards, sound, all those things. So it's good to bring them to our attention. It's something we always discuss, but for the most part, the fan experience has been great. We just hosted over 12,000 fans, as you said. It's the first time
since 2011.
Since 2011, and that's where we want to be. We want to be at a place where we can support all the great things that take place at Furman. I think one of the things that Bob said that shouldn't be a pass-by comment is like you have these big-time recruits on campus, and you got our families on campus, and they're in the middle of a tailgate with 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 other people enjoying that experience. The impact of that in terms of positive impact for Furman is immeasurable. So we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, and to date we haven't had any issues that I think are an unfixable issues that we're not addressing.
Well, and the one thing that I think also has to be brought out in this is that I think for the first time we've gone full electronic with the tickets, which in the past 2 or 3 seasons, we've still had the hybrid. You can do it on your phone or we'll print a paper ticket. I believe we're full electronic now, so there are always going to be some growing pains and some technological snafus that come up from time to time. But I, again, maintain that it's a lot better to have these issues when you're trying to fit 10, 11, 12,000 people in here than not worry about it because you're only drawing 4,000 or 5,000, which is what we were doing 5 years ago.
And the purpose of going full electronic is it actually gives us – we need data, and we need to be able to communicate, and we need to be able to move quicker in terms of what we do. Mm-hmm. So the efficiency of using technology that's used in all major stadiums is why we made that decision to go there. The other side of it, too, is I'm a traditionalist. I like the paper ticket. So for me – we've had this conversation with several of our donors and season ticket holders from the Woodlands. If you want a paper ticket, then work with the ticket office, and they'll get you the paper tickets. I find tremendous value in terms of having those tickets available, both for football and basketball and for keepsake. So that's a process that we're totally open to as you go through the process. One of the biggest reasons that we made the change to Ticketmaster is that the transferring of tickets and the ease of using it once you get into the system and it is 100% easier than when you go through. I understand when you get to the ticket spot and you want to use your phone and there's something happens. I have the same issues that happen at different venues as well, but it's getting to the point of saying, how does this work? How do I go through this process? How do I make this process quick and convenient? And it's something we're committed to is just being in best of class when we do things from an environment standpoint. But no, I love what we're doing on game day. We appreciate the feedback. We want to keep it coming, and we welcome that as part of this conversation.
Are we going to raise a SoCon and NCAA tournament banner on opening night?
Yes. I'm not going to give away all the particulars of it because we want to have men's basketball lead with what they want to share, and I don't know if Bob even mentioned that in his conversation. I think he might have alluded to it. But yes, in the in the year ahead, as we celebrate last season, that'll be part of that. As we celebrate those who have accomplished a great deal in terms of jersey retirements, as we honor the building itself. I know you were asking before, is this a leading question? We're going Timmons because I don't have full authority and approval to say this is the last year because it's not a done deal yet. We're knocking on the door of this being done, and we're right there down to the end in terms of trying to make this announcement. But our intention is to honor and the team from last year to honor the accomplishments, to go through this process in terms of what the season ahead is going to be, and then to get prepared for enjoying this last season in the arena. God willing that all the approvals go through. And then the following season, as we shared, I can say our intention is to play the season that we don't play in the Timmons Arena at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. We got a great relationship with them. We love playing down there. I'm one of those people that would love to play down there this year too, but we've gone through a process saying that this year is going to be unique and different, and we're going to continue to grow and continue to compete, and it should be a lot of fun.
How close are we to that $40 million price tag?
Oh, we're close. The thing that goes on with fundraising is it might not be everything it seems to be. I mean, I've been doing fundraising for a long time. There's a lot of layers to fundraising that sometimes might not be seen when you're dealing with wealth and philanthropy and giving at this level. Sometimes it's simple as an approval process, dotting I's, crossing T's, working with foundations, working with corporations. There's a lot that goes into it. So I think I said on the front end of the year that it was going to take the entire year to do this. And I said that for a reason because as you work with constituents, you need to give them time to process their decisions and to work with their own philanthropic arms and boards. But if we walk back from the end of this year and if we get to the end of the year and say, hey, Furman University raised $40 million to support a capital project at Furman in a short amount of time, it's a big deal. Having done a major capital project before this, several of them before this, in terms of capital projects, but major project before this, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of resources. It takes great commitment. I feel really good about where we're at. One thing that we'll never do is we're not going to count the chicken before it's hatched. We still have work that's got to get done, but we are right where we need to be and excited about where we are at this stage in the game.
We're continuing on our Ask the AD segment that we do once a month with Jason Donnelly, Vice President of Athletics here at Furman University. What was your takeaway from the time you spent with new SoCon Commissioner Michael Cross when he was here? I guess it was at the end of August.
Yeah.
What was your takeaway from that time you spent with him?
You mentioned that was a question you wanted to have. I thought it was positive. I think to Michael's credit, he went around to every campus, spent time with the athletic director, president, SWA, faculty athletic reps, coaches, student athletes. He did a really good job of getting around to all 10 schools. It's a work in progress. His job is a challenging job. There's a lot of different agendas in the conference. You've got the publics, you got the privates, you got the academies, you've got aggressive ADs that want to get a lot of stuff done like me. You got guys that have been in the league for a long time that have different agendas. I mean, there's just a lot of different things out there. I appreciate him coming through. I appreciate the work that he's doing. I know that he is working aggressively on a plan for the future in terms of where things go. We actually have an ADs meeting this afternoon to continue that conversation as we go forward. And we got Basketball Media Day coming up in Asheville on October 25th, so we're going to meet again as a conference and with our coaches. But I appreciate the sense of urgency that he has. I appreciate the focus that he has. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done within the conference. But I thought it was positive. I thought that what he shared in the conversation, if people haven't listened to that conversation already, was a good insight to his thought process and to what he's trying to get done. I think it still leaves a lot of answers a lot of questions to be answered. But at this point in the game, I think we're moving in the right direction with the leader of our conference. One
of the things that you always do is keep an ear to the ground on the NCAA landscape.
Yeah.
And as much as you can know what's going on, because sometimes I think they don't even know what's going on at the upper levels. But anything you can share with our fans about what you've been hearing about direction and some of those items? Yeah, I actually shared this with our head coaches just before, really to give them some insight into what I'm working on. And part of what I said to them is, guys, I don't want you to worry about this because this is my job to worry about it, and it's our job to keep you informed. But there's so much going on. I just had the fortune of attending the Collegiate Athletics Leadership Summit, where a number of my peers and
some great leaders in college athletics where they were talking about the different topics. And the NCAA is going through a major change, in terms of where it is and what it's been and what the future of college athletics looks like. I've met our president, Charlie Baker. I think he's outstanding. There's a lot of work that's being done behind the scenes to kind of rein things in. What the public needs to know is that so much of this is driven at a large scale around antitrust, around lawsuits, around FBS football, around the concept of student-athlete as employees, student-athletes in terms of revenue share, just all the different topics, name, image, and likeness that are out there. So I think we're at a point right now in college athletics where there's a little bit of a reset in terms of what the model was and where we're going and what that means for the future. Our focus at Furman continues to be the best Furman we can be. And if you look at the coaches and the leadership and the organization that we have, we're in a really good place in terms of what we are. I think a lot of this stuff that's out there is right now is being driven around Power 5 football. What is the future of the FBS playoffs? What is the distributions? What is the right model for student athletes in the future? And some of this doesn't affect us yet. The reason I say that is that these TV contracts and these 100,000-seat stadiums and all these different things that are taking place are right now hitting the edge of the Big Ten, of the SEC, of the ACC, of the moves that you see. And I don't think we're done with movement. I think there's a lot more movement to come. I think there's a lot more pieces of the puzzle that still need to fit in. But in a bigger scale, it's going to come down to distribution of resources, TV contracts, revenue sharing, potentially student athletes as employees, a lot of different things are going to take place at the tip of the iceberg when you talk about the NCAA. At the end of the day, the best outcome for everyone is that everything remains underneath the same umbrella when it comes to NCAA championships, and that's where the men's basketball NCAA tournament has such an impact on everything that we do. For Furman, we want to continue to be at the highest possible competitive level for where we are. At the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see where Power 5 football plays out in this. And anyone that tells you have an answer for this, they don't. There's speculation. There's ideas. The challenge is there's not one leader that's responsible for all of it because the college football playoffs technically are outside of the governance of the NCAA. So that's one of the biggest features that's a part of this is that who controls the money, who controls the decisions, where is this headed. But I would just stay tuned, and we'll be sure to keep everyone informed in terms of where it fits in for Furman.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen a rash of, and we're getting ready to get into wrap-up mode here, is FCS schools moving up to the FBS level. And just in case our fans missed it, late last week in the NCAA meetings that were going on, they made a significant change now for schools. If you want to go from FBS to FCS, or the other way around, FCS to FBS, despite all of the other things you have to meet, the fee for doing that was moved from $5,000 to $5 million.
And this came forward in the spring. So actually, we were aware of this change taking place all the way back in the spring. It was voted into the place here. And I think when you look at the landscape, and let's take it down to the SoCon level.
Right.
When you look at what the App States and the Georgia Southerns have done in recent years, it was to try to get ahead of this curve, to try to figure out where they fit into the landscape. There's a lot to be said for schools that are moving up to FBS in terms of them trying to be included. I think you see that a little bit with Kennesaw State in terms of moves that they're making. What's really interesting in this, someone said it really well when you look at the NCAA landscape, this is that there's almost like 9 divisions within the 3 different divisions. That you got one level where Oklahoma and Texas and Alabama, and you got the Clemson level of athletics, the revenue generation. And then you got this next one in the middle where App State, Georgia Southern, Kennesaw State are trying to reside in this level, JMU, these schools in this middle. And then you got another level where you got FCS football traditionally the way it is, the competitive level of where we are. And then you got different impact of basketball and Olympic sports there. The middle could become problematic. And I don't mean that in a bad way, just that these schools where you see the Pac-12 dissolving and you see a school like Oregon and Cal and SMU fighting to get into the ACC, or you see Washington and Oregon going into the Big Ten, when you see all these things happening, the place to be is either here or here. If you're going to be here, you're trying to get in to be one of those schools that has access to the playoff system and the revenue share. Those schools don't want anyone else to, not that they're against it, they want to control what they're doing here. It's the schools in the middle that are a little bit vulnerable in terms of how does the next conferences down fit You see the American Athletic Conference as another conference competing for that space. You see the impact of a Power 5 conference completely dissolving over a weekend. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to the App States, the Georgia Southern, the JMUs. Where does that model fit if that model moves that way and this moves this way? So there's a lot more still to come, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all fits together. But that's what you're seeing in all this different realignment is people trying to angle and prepare for what the future is and not knowing exactly what that future is going to be.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
This is good.
Anything that we did not get to that's on your list there?
No, I mean, I literally wanted to use today as a chance to answer as many questions as possible. I know you mentioned plans for hosting playoff football on your list of topics. We would love to do that. We will be aggressive. We have told our fan base, we've told our internal staff to be prepared for a playoff game potentially after Thanksgiving in a great scenario, which is the scenario that we want. We'll continue to win in football and have an opportunity to get a bye and advance to the next round. And again, we would love to host. You and I are talking about December 2nd. We got a basketball game at Princeton. We're hoping to be hosting football here as a part of the FCS playoffs. That's our goal. But I would just tell you from our perspective, our staff and our coaches are just dialed in on the success of our teams, our student athletes, our campus. Things are in a great place. Support is continually needed. This isn't a plug for fundraising, but participation in terms of what we do with the Paladins Scholarship Fund, what we do with our fundraising efforts, what we do with our teams. This is the time to engage Furman Athletics. This is the time to continue to push things forward. And you can do it in one of three ways. You can just simply come out and attend. Attendance alone makes a difference for our student athletes coming out to be a part of it. You can give. That goes a long way in terms of what you do, in terms of how you support our sports. And you'd be surprised at how much a small gift can make an impact. But giving is really driving things forward for us. Our fundraising's been off the charts. It needs to continue to push us forward. Then the third thing is be a Furman fan and share this. You know, is you can pull people in, friends, neighbors, colleagues, alumni you were connected to, your own family. That the whole purpose of this, and Bob was talking about this, is how do we grow this pot of energy so we can keep including more and more people. It's been really cool for me and my family. We keep meeting more people, and we real simple. I say, hey, you want to come to a football game? Come on by. People come, and they love it. You want to come to a basketball game? Come on by. Come to a soccer game? Come on by. We're building Furman fans one step at a time in terms of building this bubble, what we are, and when people have a chance to taste it, they're really enjoying it. But just thankful for our fan base, thankful for you, Dan, for all the work that you do, and I hope everyone enjoys this version of our podcast.
All right, just a couple of quick notes before we wrap it up. The Purple-White scrimmage, we're doing this and dropping it on Tuesday, 2 days away. Mm-hmm. That's Thursday the 12th. At Timmons, autographs and inflatables from 5:30 to 6:30. Complimentary food from Holy Molly while supplies last. And then Hoops Night is the 24th. And if you weren't there last year, you need to come this year because we have just in the space of a year turned this into an incredible event for both the men and the women to be introduced and do some things on the floor at Timmons.
Great family-friendly event.
Yeah.
So great thing to bring your family to.
The Healthy Blue South Carolina All Hoops basketball season ticket pack is now available. $500 gets you 4 seasons tickets to all men's and women's basketball games and a season parking pass.
Yeah, pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's a great deal. And as we mentioned earlier, men's basketball season ticket sales have already surpassed what we did last year. So it's funny how people want to see this basketball team, right?
I'm telling you, they're a lot of fun.
And this football team and these other teams.
Yeah, and that'll be the one thing I would tell you in terms of current season tickets. We've talked about this, is that without playing a game downtown at the Well, if you don't jump in early now, you could get left out because it's trending in a direction of a lot of energy, a lot of fun. And we certainly want to service as many fans as we can as possible in the year ahead. But we're excited about what the season could be.
All right, Jason. Good stuff.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. That will do it for this edition of Inside Furman Athletics. We will be back with another one for you next week, and then just stay tuned for November when Jason will be back. And I believe November's guest is going to be women's coach Pierre Curtis, right?
He is, yeah. Pierre Curtis getting his season started on his first day. We're excited to do that with him.
Absolutely. All right, we will see you again next week. For Jason and for Coach Bob Richey, who was with us, I'm Dan Scott, as always, saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.